Deep in the remote wilderness of Russia's Ural Mountains lies a mystery that challenges everything we think we know about ancient civilizations. Carved into the rugged landscape with astonishing geometric precision, the Ural Relief Maps don't just depict the terrain, they mirror it with an accuracy that seems impossible for their age. These massive stone canvases stretching across kilometers weren't merely artistic expressions, they were functional, detailed guides, so exact that modern surveyors have compared them to satellite imagery and found barely a margin of error. How could a civilization from thousands of years ago, without advanced tools or aerial vantage points, achieve such perfection? This isn't just a question of craftsmanship, it's a riddle that forces us to reconsider the limits of human ingenuity. What makes these maps even more extraordinary is the sheer scale of their ambition. Unlike typical ancient carvings, which often served ceremonial or decorative purposes, the Ural Relief Maps were engineered with a purpose that still eludes us. Some researchers believe they were navigational aids, guiding travelers through treacherous mountain passes with uncanny accuracy. Others speculate they held astronomical significance, aligning with celestial events in ways we're only beginning to decipher. But here's the haunting part: we don't know who created them or why. No records, no legends, no traces of the culture capable of such precision. It's as if the maps were left behind by a civilization that vanished without a trace, leaving only these silent stone whispers as clues. This is more than just an archaeological curiosity, it's a doorway into a forgotten chapter of human history. The Ural Relief Maps force us to ask uncomfortable questions. Were ancient societies far more advanced than we've given them credit for? Did they possess knowledge or technologies lost to time? Or is there something even more profound at work here? A connection between cultures separated by millennia, bound by a shared understanding of the land and sky. As we explore these questions together, you'll see why these maps aren't just relics of the past. They're a challenge to our assumptions, to our imagination, and to the very story we tell about human progress. So let's journey into the heart of this enigma, piece by piece, and uncover what these ancient cartographers might have known and what their legacy could still reveal to us today. The discovery of the Ural Relief Maps reads like something out of an adventure novel. Tucked away in the rugged expanse of Russia's southern Urals, near the modern-day Republic of Bashkortostan, these ancient wonders were stumbled upon almost by accident. In the late 1990s, a team of researchers led by Professor Alexander Chovarov was combing through the region, originally searching for evidence of ancient Chinese migrations. What they found instead would rewrite history. The first clue came from local villagers who spoke of strange, massive stones embedded in the earth, stones covered in markings that didn't match any known local traditions. The most famous of these artifacts, the Dashka stone, is a slab weighing nearly a ton, its surface meticulously carved with a three-dimensional relief map of the surrounding Ural landscape. But here's what stunned archaeologists: the level of detail was unlike anything seen before. Rivers, mountains, and even artificial structures were rendered with an accuracy that seemed impossible for its estimated age of around 120 million years. The Dashka stone wasn't just a map, it was a technical masterpiece displaying contour lines and scaled elevations centuries before modern cartography existed. Initial reactions ranged from awe to outright skepticism. How could a civilization from such a distant era possess the knowledge to create something so precise? The region's geography only deepened the mystery. The Urals are notoriously harsh, a labyrinth of dense forests, steep cliffs, and unpredictable weather. Yet the maps didn't just depict the terrain, they seemed optimized for navigating it, as if their creators had an intimate, almost aerial understanding of the land. Some researchers theorized the maps were used for large-scale engineering projects, while others wondered if they served a ritualistic purpose, tying the landscape to celestial patterns. But the biggest question remains: who were these master cartographers? No other artifacts from their culture have been found, no tools, no settlements. It's as if they left behind only these maps as a deliberate message, a puzzle carved in stone for future generations to unravel. And with each new discovery, the Urals whisper another piece of their secrets, challenging us to rethink not just the past, but the very nature of human innovation. The Ural Relief Maps are unlike any other ancient artifacts discovered on Earth. Carved into massive slabs of stone, primarily a dense, weather-resistant type of sandstone, their surfaces are etched with a level of detail that rivals modern topographic surveys. The largest known fragment, the Dashka stone, measures roughly 5 feet by 3.5 feet and weighs over 2,000 pounds. But it's not the size that astonishes researchers, it's the craftsmanship. Every groove and ridge on its surface corresponds to real geographic features, scaled down with mathematical exactness. The maps don't just show mountains and rivers, they depict elevation changes through intricate contour lines, a technique not formally developed until the 18th century. Zoom in closer and the precision becomes even more baffling. The carvings include minute details like narrow ravines, ridge patterns, and even what appear to be artificial structures, possibly ancient settlements or fortifications. Some symbols resemble modern cartographic markers, suggesting a standardized system of notation. The lines are so crisp and uniform that researchers initially suspected metal tools were used, yet no evidence of such advanced implements has been found in the region. The stone itself shows no signs of weathering within the carvings, as if the maps were deliberately preserved or perhaps buried to protect their secrets. The materials add another layer to the mystery. The stone slabs aren't local to the immediate area where they were discovered. Geological analysis reveals they were transported from quarries dozens of miles away, a staggering logistical feat for any ancient society. Even more perplexing is the coating found on some fragments, a thin layer of a ceramic-like substance that seems to have protected the carvings from erosion. Modern tests can't fully replicate its composition, hinting at a lost technology or technique. What's truly unsettling is how these maps mirror the landscape. When overlaid with satellite images, the contours align almost perfectly, with deviations of less than 1%. This isn't just artistic interpretation, it's scientific-grade accuracy. The creators didn't just observe the land, they understood it in 3 dimensions, calculating gradients and distances with tools or knowledge we can't yet explain. Whether these maps were meant for navigation, sacred rituals, or something beyond our current understanding, one thing is certain: whoever made them saw the world in a way we're only beginning to comprehend. Attempts to date the Ural Relief Maps have ignited one of the fiercest debates in modern archaeology. When Professor Chovarov's team first analyzed the Dashka stone, they expected it to align with known ancient civilizations, perhaps the work of medieval Tatars or even earlier nomadic tribes. But the results shattered expectations. Initial radiocarbon dating of organic residues embedded in the stone's grooves suggested an age of around 120 million years, a figure so staggering that it was met with immediate skepticism. If accurate, it would place the map's creation in the Cretaceous period, a time when humans didn't exist and the Ural Mountains themselves were still forming. Mainstream archaeologists dismissed these results as contamination or error, but the controversy was just beginning. Further tests only deepened the mystery. Geologists examining the stone's weathering patterns and mineral deposits proposed an alternative age, roughly 12,000 years old, coinciding with the end of the last ice age. This timeline aligns with fringe theories about lost advanced civilizations like Atlantis or Hyperborea, but lacks concrete evidence. Meanwhile, traditional scholars argue the maps are no older than 3,000 years, possibly linked to the enigmatic Scythians or other steppe cultures. The problem: none of these groups left behind comparable cartographic work or any record of such sophisticated technology. the dating debate reveals a broader rift in archaeology. Conventional methods rely on comparing artifacts to known cultural periods, but the Ural maps defy categorization. Their precision suggests a level of knowledge that shouldn't exist in any accepted historical timeline. Skeptics point to the lack of tool marks or workshop sites nearby, insisting the maps must be medieval or later. Yet even this theory stumbles. Medieval Europe and Asia had no mapping tradition this advanced, and no contemporary accounts mention such a project. Some researchers propose a radical middle ground, that the maps are ancient but were later altered or refined, explaining the mix of archaic and advanced features. Others wonder if they're remnants of a forgotten golden age, a civilization erased by cataclysm or time. Without definitive proof, the maps remain suspended between eras, a riddle wrapped in stone. What's undeniable is this: every attempt to pin them down only raises new questions about who we've been and what we've lost. Standing in a modern surveyor's office today, you'd see maps created with laser scanners, satellite imagery, and GPS technologies that seem light years ahead of anything ancient civilizations could achieve. Yet when you place the Ural Relief Maps side by side with these contemporary works, the differences blur in unsettling ways. The grid lines etched into the stone aren't just decorative. They form a coordinate system so precise that researchers have compared them to the universal transverse Mercator grids used by modern militaries. Elevation changes aren't implied, they're meticulously carved in layered contours, a technique that didn't enter mainstream cartography until the 1700s. Even the hydrographic details, the way rivers split, bend, or merge, are rendered with a fluid accuracy that suggests the creators didn't just observe these waterways from the ground. They understood them from above, as if they'd plotted every twist and turn from the sky. What's even more striking is how these ancient maps handle scale. Modern topographic surveys rely on mathematical formulas to compress vast landscapes onto manageable sheets, adjusting for curvature and distortion. The Ural maps do the same, but without any surviving evidence of the tools or equations that would make such calculations possible. Take the depiction of the White River, a winding tributary in the region. On the Dashka stone, its course aligns with satellite imagery to within a margin of error of just 2%, a level of accuracy that would challenge even today's drones. Some sections even hint at subsurface features like underground aquifers or rock layers, details modern maps only include with ground-penetrating radar. Then there's the matter of materials. Today, we print maps on polymer films or digital screens designed to resist wear. The Ural Maps stone slabs, coated in that enigmatic ceramic-like layer, have endured millennia with their details intact. It's as if their creators anticipated the need for longevity, choosing materials that would outlast civilizations. But here's the lingering question: if these techniques were so advanced, why didn't they spread? Why are these maps an anomaly, isolated in the Urals with no parallel anywhere else in the ancient world? The answer might lie in the purpose behind them. While modern maps serve everything from hiking to urban planning, the Ural Relief Maps feel deliberate, almost ceremonial, as if they were meant to guide not just bodies, but minds toward something far greater than the terrain they depict. The question of who created the Ural Relief Maps has sparked theories as varied as they are controversial. Mainstream archaeologists cautiously suggest they might be the work of an unknown branch of the Scythians or other nomadic steppe cultures, yet no evidence links these groups to such advanced cartography. Their usual artifacts, ornate goldwork and burial mounds, show nothing resembling the map's technical precision. This gap has led some researchers to propose a far older origin, pointing to ancient advanced civilizations that predate recorded history. Proponents of this theory highlight similarities to other global anomalies, like the precision-cut stones of Puma Punku or the Antikythera mechanism artifacts that defy conventional timelines of human innovation. But the speculation doesn't stop there. Fringe researchers have floated even more radical ideas, including the possibility of extraterrestrial involvement. The map's mathematical exactness, combined with the absence of tool marks or workshop debris, has led a minority to argue that they could be the work of a non-human intelligence. These theories often cite the region's frequent UFO sightings and legends of celestial visitors among indigenous Ural tribes. While mainstream science dismisses such claims as pseudoscience, the sheer isolation of these maps, with no parallel in any known culture, keeps the debate alive. A more grounded but equally intriguing hypothesis ties the maps to Hyperborea, a mythical northern civilization described in Greek texts as a land of advanced technology and wisdom. Some alternative historians suggest the Urals could have been Hyperborea's heartland, and the maps a surviving fragment of its knowledge. Others propose a lost Atlantean colony, citing Plato's accounts of a sophisticated society swallowed by the sea, though no geological evidence supports Atlantis reaching this far inland. Then there's the theory of a deliberate cover-up. Independent investigators point to strange gaps in Soviet-era archaeological records, noting that the region was heavily militarized during the Cold War. Could something have been found and hidden? The lack of follow-up studies on the Dashka stone only fuels these suspicions. Whether the creators were human geniuses ahead of their time, visitors from beyond our world, or custodians of a forgotten golden age, one thing is clear: the Ural Relief Maps refuse to fit neatly into any known narrative. They stand as a silent provocation, daring us to rethink not just history, but the very origins of human achievement. The precision of the Ural Relief Maps forces us to confront an unsettling possibility: that their creators possessed tools and techniques far beyond what we've attributed to ancient civilizations. Think about the basics of cartography. To map a landscape this accurately, you'd need three things: a way to measure vast distances, a method to record elevation changes, and a system to translate those observations into scaled-down representations. Today, we achieve this with satellites and laser rangefinders, but the Ural maps predate even the wheel by thousands of years, according to some estimates. So how did they do it? One theory points to an overlooked sophistication in primitive tools. While we assume ancient cultures relied on rudimentary chisels and ropes, the map's razor-sharp grooves suggest something more. Perhaps precision implements made from an alloy or hardened material we haven't discovered yet. The absence of such tools at the site isn't necessarily proof they didn't exist. Consider this: if a modern survey team abandoned their equipment in the wilderness, how much would remain after centuries of erosion? Now multiply that by millennia. Even durable metals corrode or get scavenged. The maps might be all that's left of a lost technological tradition. Then there's the surveying problem. To recreate the Ural's topography with such fidelity, the creators needed a way to visualize the land from above, a perspective impossible without flight. Yet indigenous legends in the region speak of sky sleds and metal birds, eerie echoes of aerial observation. Could they have used kites or early hot air balloons to gain altitude? It's not as far-fetched as it sounds. The Nazca lines in Peru, another ancient enigma, are thought to have been planned using elevated platforms. But the Ural maps go further, requiring not just elevation but precise angular measurements and mathematical consistency. Some researchers propose they used reflective pools or mirrors to create primitive theodolites, aligning sight lines with celestial markers to triangulate positions. The most baffling aspect isn't just the tools, though. It's the knowledge behind them. Modern cartography relies on trigonometry and calculus, disciplines that supposedly didn't emerge until the Greeks or later. Yet the Ural maps encode spatial relationships that would require an understanding of advanced geometry. Rivers are plotted with consistent sinuosity ratios, and mountain slopes are rendered with gradient accuracy that implies a grasp of trigonometry. If these skills existed, why don't we find them in other artifacts? Perhaps they were guarded secrets passed down through elite schools or priesthoods, then lost to war or disaster. What's equally puzzling is the absence of trial and error. Most ancient technologies evolve through iterations, rough drafts becoming refined over generations. But the Ural maps appear fully formed, as if their makers skipped straight to mastery. This has led a minority of scholars to speculate about a forgotten golden age, where certain sciences reached heights later wiped from memory. The maps in this view wouldn't be anomalies, they'd be rare survivors of a once widespread sophistication. Whether that's true or not, one thing is undeniable. The technology behind these carvings doesn't just challenge our timeline of human progress. It exposes how fragile our understanding of history really is, built on fragments with entire chapters possibly missing. The river systems carved into the Ural Relief Maps aren't just rough sketches, they're hydrological blueprints, matching real-world waterways with an accuracy that borders on eerie. Take the Belaya River, a serpentine thread of water that twists through the southern Urals. On the Dashka stone, every major bend and tributary is plotted to within meters of its actual course, as if the cartographers had access to aerial imagery. Even more astonishing, the maps depict subtle features like riverbed gradients and seasonal floodplains, details invisible from ground level without advanced measuring tools. When researchers compared these carvings to modern topographic surveys, they found the elevation drops along certain stretches were rendered with precision, calculated to reflect the exact energy loss of water flowing downhill. This isn't artistry, it's engineering. Mountain ranges on the maps reveal another layer of sophistication. The Ural chain is a chaotic sprawl of peaks and valleys, yet the stone reliefs capture their structure with almost surgical clarity. The contours of Mount Yamantau, the region's highest summit, align perfectly with satellite LiDAR scans, down to the distinctive ridgeline that splits its eastern face. Even more perplexing are the smaller, unnamed hills included in the carvings, features so subtle that modern hikers might overlook them. Yet there they are, etched into the stone with their exact proportional heights and slopes. Geologists who have studied these details note something peculiar. The maps don't just show the mountains as they are today. They seem to account for millennia of erosion, depicting shapes closer to what the land would have looked like 12,000 years ago when ice sheets last retreated. It's as if the creators weren't just mapping the land, they were preserving a snapshot of its deeper history. Then there are the anomalies, features on the maps that don't match the current landscape but hint at forgotten geography. One section shows a river junction that no longer exists, buried under centuries of silt. When archaeologists excavated the area, they found evidence of an ancient channel exactly where the stone predicted. Another segment depicts a plateau that today is fragmented by landslides, but on the map it's intact, suggesting the carvers worked before the collapse. These discrepancies aren't mistakes, they're time capsules capturing moments in the land's evolution that only advanced geological dating could reveal. Verifying these details required more than just satellite overlays. Teams used ground-penetrating radar to confirm subterranean features like aquifers and rock strata implied by the carvings. In one remarkable case, the maps hinted at a hidden network of underground springs. Drilling at the marked location struck water within 10 feet of the predicted depth. Whether by intuition, technology, or some lost method of Earth reading, the creators didn't just see the surface. They mapped the land's bones. What's truly humbling is realizing how much effort went into this precision without modern tools. Today, we'd use drones and GPS to achieve this level of detail. The Ural cartographers had none of that, just stone, patience, and a knowledge of the land so intimate it feels almost supernatural. Their work whispers a challenge across the ages. If they could do this with so little, what else might they have known that we've yet to rediscover? The symbols carved alongside the Ural Relief Maps are unlike any known ancient script, a labyrinth of geometric shapes, looping lines, and clustered dots that defy straightforward translation. At first glance, they resemble everything from early cuneiform to abstract petroglyphs, yet they match no established writing system. Some glyphs appear in orderly sequences, suggesting a written language, while others spiral around geographic features like annotations tied to specific landmarks. The most puzzling are the repeating clusters of 3 dots arranged in triangular patterns, often positioned near river confluences or mountain peaks. These aren't random scratches, their deliberate placement hints at a coded system, possibly denoting resources, dangers, or even celestial alignments. Linguists who have studied the symbols hit a wall almost immediately. Comparing them to known ancient scripts, Sumerian, Sanskrit, even the undeciphered Vinca symbols of Neolithic Europe, yields no meaningful parallels. The closest visual match might be the archaic markings found on Siberian shamanic drums, but even those share only superficial similarities. One theory proposes the symbols aren't language at all, but a form of topographic shorthand. The looping lines, for example, might trace seasonal animal migration routes, while the angular glyphs could represent rock types or mineral deposits. This would explain their proximity to certain land features, as if the maps were both guide and legend combined. Then there's the mathematical angle. A team of physicists noted that certain symbol groupings mirror prime number sequences, sparking speculation they could be units of measurement or astronomical calculations. One recurring motif, a circle bisected by a zigzag, bears an uncanny resemblance to ancient depictions of solar eclipses. If correct, this could imply the map served as a calendar or celestial observatory, marking events like solstices or comet appearances. Others argue the symbols resemble hydraulic engineering notation, perhaps indicating ancient irrigation systems or flood zones now lost to time. The most tantalizing clue lies in their distribution. The symbols aren't scattered randomly, they cluster near areas with unusual magnetic anomalies or high mineral concentrations. Modern scans reveal that many marked spots sit above underground caves or metal deposits, raising the possibility they were part of a resource map for mining or ritual purposes. Indigenous oral traditions from the region speak of stone that calls to stone, hinting at a lost understanding of geology encoded in these carvings. Yet for all the theories, the symbols remain stubbornly silent, without a Rosetta Stone equivalent, a bilingual inscription to bridge the gap. Their meaning may stay locked away. The irony is palpable. These maps depict the land with breathtaking clarity, but the language of their creators is a shadow we can't yet grasp. What's clear is that decoding these symbols wouldn't just solve a linguistic puzzle. It would open a window into a world where geography, astronomy, and perhaps even spirituality were woven into a single, seamless science, one we're only beginning to imagine. Among the indigenous peoples of the Ural Mountains, the maps aren't just artifacts, they're woven into the fabric of oral traditions that stretch back further than recorded history. The Bashkir people, native to the region where the Dashka stone was discovered, speak of a time when their ancestors were guided by the Old Ones, beings who carved the secrets of the land into stone so future generations would never lose their way. One legend tells of a great flood that reshaped the valleys, after which these celestial teachers descended to reteach humans how to navigate the changed world. The maps, they say, were left as both a gift and a test, a puzzle meant to awaken forgotten knowledge when the time was right. Even older are the tales of the Mansi people, who describe a race of giants known as the Surtlan. These beings, said to possess eyes that could see through mountains, were master surveyors who marked the land with sacred stones to channel the Earth's energy. The Ural Relief Maps, with their precise alignments, fit eerily well into these accounts. Mansi shamans still point to certain symbols on the stones, particularly the recurring triangular clusters of dots, as markers of singing rocks, places where the boundary between our world and the spirit realm grows thin. Rituals performed at these spots are believed to summon visions, suggesting the maps may have served as spiritual waypoints as much as physical guides. Then there's the Comey legend of the silver hare, a celestial creature who leapt across the mountains, leaving behind trails that became rivers. The map's river systems, when viewed from above, trace patterns that mirror this myth, almost as if the cartographers encoded the folklore into the landscape itself. Some elders claim the maps aren't human-made at all, but the work of the mythical Ural owl, a wise being who whispered the land's secrets to select listeners during the age when animals and humans shared a language. Modern researchers initially dismissed these stories as mere metaphor until they noticed something peculiar. Many of the sacred sites mentioned in the legends correspond exactly to points where the map's symbols cluster most densely. One recurring glyph, a spiral intersecting a straight line, matches the traditional Mansi depiction of the world pillar, a cosmic axis linking Earth and sky. Could these narratives be fragmented memories of the map's true purpose? The indigenous perspective offers a radical shift. Perhaps the stones weren't just tools but living texts meant to be read not just with the eyes but with the soul. What's striking is how these oral traditions refuse to separate science from spirituality. Where modern cartography sees terrain, the Ural people see stories, every ridge a serpent's back, every spring a tear of the moon. The maps in this light become more than surveys. They're intermediaries between worlds, crafted by minds who understood the land as both body and spirit. As we piece together these fragments of lore, one thing becomes clear. Unlocking the map's secrets might require more than satellites and scanners. It might demand listening to the voices that have known these mountains' longest, voices that still echo through the stones. Not everyone is convinced the Ural Relief Maps are the work of an advanced ancient civilization, or even human hands at all. Skeptics in the academic world have proposed alternative explanations that challenge the more sensational theories. One prevailing argument suggests these carvings could be the result of natural geological processes rather than deliberate craftsmanship. Certain types of sandstone, when exposed to centuries of freeze-thaw cycles and mineral seepage, can fracture in eerily precise patterns that mimic artificial carvings. Geologists point to examples like the Giant's Causeway in Ireland, where hexagonal basalt columns formed naturally, resembling man-made architecture. Could the Ural maps simply be a quirk of erosion, their apparent precision just an illusion of our pattern-seeking brains? Another point of contention is the dating methods used on the Dashka stone and its counterparts. Critics highlight that radiocarbon dating only works on organic material, meaning the age estimates derived from plant residues in the grooves might reflect when those organic deposits formed, not when the stone was carved. Without direct dating of the tool marks themselves, the maps could be far younger than initially claimed. Some archaeologists note that similar weathering patterns appear on medieval tombstones in the region, suggesting the stones might belong to a more recent, if still mysterious, cultural tradition. Then there's the human tendency to project meaning onto ambiguity. Psychologists call this phenomenon pareidolia, the instinct to see faces in clouds or messages in random static. Could the map's symbols just be natural fissures or later additions by unrelated cultures? Skeptics cite the Voynich manuscript, an undeciphered book filled with botanical and astronomical drawings that some believe to be an elaborate hoax. Without definitive proof of intent, they argue, the Ural carvings might be equally misleading, a canvas onto which we've painted our own expectations of lost knowledge. Even the map's geographic accuracy has been questioned. While certain features align with modern terrain, others deviate significantly, especially in areas where erosion or tectonic shifts would have altered the landscape over millennia. One study found that nearly 30% of the depicted river courses don't match current topography, a margin of error inconsistent with hyper-precise cartography. Could these discrepancies reveal a simpler truth? Some researchers propose the carvings were never meant as maps at all, but as ritual objects or boundary markers, their resemblance to landscapes purely coincidental. Mainstream archaeology's most damning critique is the lack of context. Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, yet no tools, settlements, or corroborating artifacts have been found near the sites. Contrast this with, say, the Nazca lines, where pottery and tools linked to their creation have been excavated nearby. Without such evidence, the maps float in historical limbo, too anomalous to accept at face value, too unique to compare. But here's where the debate takes an intriguing turn. Even skeptics admit that discrediting the maps entirely is as fraught as embracing the wildest theories. The middle ground, acknowledging that these stones might be palimpsests, objects reused and recarved by multiple cultures over time. Perhaps an ancient people did create rudimentary markings, later refined by medieval surveyors or even Soviet-era geologists, though records of such activity are conspicuously absent. This layered history approach could explain both the precisions and the inconsistencies, a mosaic of human intervention across epochs. What's undeniable is this: whether natural or man-made, ancient or recent, the Ural Relief Maps force us to confront how little we truly know about the intersection of geology, archaeology, and human ingenuity. Even the most skeptical theories can't fully dissolve their mystery, only shift the questions to new, equally fertile ground. Mainstream archaeology isn't the only field wrestling with the age of the Ural Relief Maps. Alternative researchers have proposed dating methods that upend conventional timelines entirely. One of the most provocative theories ties the maps to the Younger Dryas period, a cataclysmic era around 12,000 years ago marked by sudden climate shifts and global upheaval. Proponents of this idea point to the Younger Dryas impact hypothesis, which suggests Earth was struck by comet fragments, triggering wildfires, megafaunal extinctions, and possibly even floods that reshaped continents. Could the maps have been created as survival guides in the wake of this disaster? Some researchers argue their precision aligns too neatly with this timeline, depicting a landscape still recovering from cosmic chaos, river systems adjusting to new flows, mountains scarred by landslides, and coastlines that no longer match modern geography. But the dating debate doesn't stop there. Another fringe theory draws on archaeoacoustics, a field studying how ancient sites interact with sound. Certain symbols on the Ural maps correspond to areas where the bedrock emits low-frequency vibrations when struck, a phenomenon documented at sites like Peru's Machu Picchu. If these resonances were intentional, they might suggest the carvings were designed to amplify or channel sound, possibly for ceremonial or navigational purposes. Dating these features is tricky, but acoustic weathering patterns in the stone hint at exposure to millennia of vibrations, far older than traditional estimates. Then there's the astronomical angle. A minority of researchers propose the maps encode celestial alignments tied to precession, the slow wobble of Earth's axis over a 26,000-year cycle. Certain mountain peaks marked on the stones align with star positions as they would have appeared not 12,000, but 18,000 years ago during the last glacial maximum. If correct, this would push the map's origins back to a time when human civilization was supposedly in its infancy, yet somehow mastering advanced geodesy. Mainstream scholars dismiss this as coincidence, but the precision is hard to ignore. One cluster of symbols mirrors the constellation Orion's belt as it rose over the Urals in 15,000 BCE, with deviations of less than half a degree. The most radical dating method comes from plasma physicist Dr. Anton Vetrov, who analyzed the stone's magnetic signatures. His controversial findings suggest the slabs were exposed to an intense electromagnetic pulse, possibly from a solar storm or atmospheric plasma event around 9,000 years ago. Vetrov argues the map's ceramic-like coating acts as a magnetic snapshot, locking in this anomaly. While peer review is sparse, his work raises a haunting question. Could the creators have witnessed or even harnessed cosmic forces beyond our current understanding? Each of these theories, however unconventional, shares a common thread. They treat the Ural Relief Maps not as artifacts but as messages. Whether carved by survivors of a global cataclysm, acoustically attuned seers, or astronomers tracking the slow dance of the stars, the stones defy easy categorization. They remind us that time itself is a fluid construct, and human history might be far deeper and stranger than our textbooks dare to suggest. The sheer scale of the Ural Relief Maps isn't just impressive, it's logistically mind-bending. Picture teams of ancient cartographers hauling multi-ton slabs of sandstone from quarries miles away, then meticulously chiseling landscapes into their surfaces with near superhuman precision. Without pulleys, wheels, or draft animals, transporting these stones would have required ingenious solutions, possibly sledges dragged over frozen winter ground or floating them along rivers during seasonal floods. But the real marvel isn't just moving the stone, it's transforming it into a functional three-dimensional map. Modern engineers estimate that replicating the Dashka stone's precision with hand tools would require thousands of hours of labor and an error margin so slim it borders on impossible. Cutting the grooves alone presents physics-defying challenges. The carvings maintain a consistent depth of about 1 inch across the entire surface, with contours so smooth they suggest specialized tools far beyond simple flint chisels. Experiments using reconstructed copper alloy tools, the hardest metals available to most ancient cultures, show that achieving such clean lines would require not just skill, but an understanding of material science. The creators likely treated the stone with heat or chemical baths to soften specific layers before carving, a technique hinted at by the unusual vitrification, glass-like hardening, found along some grooves. Even more telling is the absence of trial marks. Unlike most ancient carvings which show evidence of corrections, the Ural maps appear to have been executed flawlessly on the first attempt, implying the use of precise templates or measuring guides now lost to time. Then there's the problem of perspective. Accurate contour mapping requires seeing the land from above, an impossibility without flight. Yet the maps capture ridge profiles and river bends as if viewed from hundreds of feet in the air. One theory suggests they used reflective pools or smoke signals to triangulate elevations, with teams stationed across the terrain signaling distances between peaks. Another posits they scaled towering trees or constructed wooden observation towers, though no evidence of such structures survives. The most compelling explanation: the cartographers didn't work alone. Indigenous oral histories speak of the measuring ones, ancestral figures who walked the land with ropes that sang lengths, possibly referencing early surveying chains or vibration-based distance tools. However they did it, their methods betray a mastery of geometry that rivals modern engineering. What truly staggers modern researchers is the map's functional design. These weren't just artistic renderings, they were working tools. Certain grooves widen at strategic points, possibly to hold liquid for leveling, while others align perfectly with solstice sun angles when the stones are tilted at specific inclinations. Recent laser scans reveal microscopic wear patterns indicating repeated use, as if the stones were regularly consulted like prehistoric GPS devices. The logistics of their creation point to something beyond mere craftsmanship. They suggest an organized society with specialized roles: quarry workers, surveyors, mathematicians, and artisans, all collaborating under a unified system of knowledge. This level of coordination implies resources, food surpluses to feed laborers, stable settlements to house them, and a social hierarchy capable of managing such complex projects. Yet archaeology has found none of these supporting structures. It's as if the maps were created by a civilization that left no other footprints, their engineering prowess existing in a vacuum. Whether through lost techniques or knowledge we've yet to rediscover, the Ural Relief Maps stand as a testament to human ingenuity's untapped potential, proof that our ancestors' capabilities may have been far greater than our textbooks dare to admit. What makes the Ural Relief Maps truly extraordinary isn't just their precision, it's how they echo mysteries found in completely unrelated corners of the ancient world. Take the Piri Reis map, a 16th century Ottoman chart that somehow depicts Antarctica's ice-free coastline with startling accuracy, a continent that wouldn't be discovered for another 300 years. Like the Ural stones, it shows landforms no human of its era could have surveyed firsthand, suggesting access to lost geographic knowledge. Both artifacts share another eerie similarity: they're fragments of a larger whole. The Piri Reis map's creator admitted it was cobbled together from older sources, while the Ural map's scattered slabs seem like pages torn from a prehistoric atlas. Were they part of a global network of forgotten cartographers? Then there's the Antikythera mechanism, a 2,000-year-old Greek device often called the world's first analog computer. Recovered from a shipwreck, its intricate bronze gears could predict eclipses and track planetary movements with a sophistication unmatched until the Renaissance. Like the Ural maps, it defies the timeline of technological progress. Both artifacts appear suddenly, without evidence of gradual development, then vanish from history. The Antikythera's gear ratios mirror mathematical constants found in the Ural carvings, hinting at a shared understanding of celestial mechanics. One captures the heavens in metal, the other the earth in stone, but both speak a language of precision that feels alien to their eras. Venture to Peru and the precision continues. The walls of Sacsayhuaman fortress near Cusco are built from massive stones cut so precisely that a razor blade can't slip between them, a feat modern engineers struggle to replicate. Just like the Ural maps, these structures lack tool marks or signs of trial and error, as if their builders skipped straight to mastery. And while the Incas left records of their empire, they never explained how they achieved such perfection. The common thread, a global scattering of anomalies, artifacts too advanced for their time, too isolated to be coincidence, yet too similar to ignore. Even older is India's Iron Pillar of Delhi, a 4th century metal column that hasn't rusted after 1600 years. Metallurgists still can't fully explain its corrosion-resistant alloy, just as geologists still puzzle over the Ural map's ceramic coating. Both seem to employ lost material sciences recipes or techniques that vanished from history. The most unsettling parallel: none of these cultures left behind instructions. The knowledge behind these marvels appears fully formed, then evaporates, as if erased. Some researchers argue this isn't accidental. Could a cataclysm like the Younger Dryas comet impacts have shattered an advanced global network, leaving only scattered survivors to preserve fragments of their science in stone and metal? Others suggest these weren't human inventions at all, but gifts or warnings from a now vanished precursor civilization. Whatever the truth, these echoes across continents form a pattern too deliberate to dismiss. The Ural maps aren't an isolated mystery, they're one piece of a puzzle spanning millennia waiting to be reassembled. What binds them together is more than just precision, it's purpose. Each artifact seems designed to endure, as if its creators knew they were encoding knowledge for a future they'd never see. The Ural cartographers didn't carve their maps for their contemporaries, they carved them for us. And that might be the most profound mystery of all. The purpose behind the Ural Relief Maps is as layered as the stone they're carved into, each theory peeling back another possibility about why a civilization would invest such staggering effort into rendering the land with surgical precision. Start with the most practical explanation: navigation. The Urals are a labyrinth of sheer cliffs, hidden crevices, and rivers that vanish into underground channels. For ancient travelers, a single wrong turn could mean death. The map's uncanny accuracy, marking not just landmarks but safe passes, water sources, and even seasonal flood zones, suggests they were survival tools etched by people who knew the stakes of getting lost. Modern hikers who have tested routes using the maps report eerie moments of recognition. a carved notch in the stone aligning perfectly with a narrow defile invisible until you're standing before it, or a cluster of symbols warning of unstable slopes that still crumble underfoot today. This wasn't just map-making, it was ancestral wisdom hardened into rock, a way to say, here's how to walk this land and live, yet the map's sophistication hints at something beyond mere utility. Certain symbols cluster near magnetic anomalies, spots where compass needles spin wildly, while others align with solstice sunrises when viewed from specific vantage points. These details suggest a ceremonial dimension, as if the stones were terrestrial mirrors reflecting celestial patterns. Indigenous oral histories speak of singing stones where shamans communed with spirits, and indeed, some marked locations emit subsonic vibrations when struck. Could the maps have doubled as ritual interfaces, their grooves channeling earth energies or serving as pilgrimage guides? The repeated triangular glyphs, often found near mountain summits, mirror sacred symbols used by Siberian shamans to denote portals between worlds. Perhaps the cartographers weren't just mapping geography, they were charting a spiritual topography, weaving the physical and metaphysical into a single guide. Then there's the territorial angle. Ancient cultures frequently used monumental art to assert dominance, like the Assyrian reliefs glorifying conquest. The Ural Maps' sheer scale and precision could have served as a silent claim. This land is known, measured, and ours. But unlike boastful carvings of kings, these maps lack any human figures or boasts of triumph, just the land itself rendered with reverent accuracy. This absence of ego is telling. Maybe they weren't declaring ownership but stewardship, a reminder that the territory transcended any one ruler. The most tantalizing theory bridges the practical and the profound, that the maps were both textbook and temple. Consider how indigenous Australians use songlines, oral maps fused with creation stories, to navigate while maintaining sacred knowledge. The Ural carvings could have served a similar dual purpose, guiding bodies through space while anchoring minds to myth. A river bend isn't just a navigational marker, it's where the silver hair leapt in legend. A mountain pass isn't just a route, it's the path souls walk to the afterlife. This duality would explain why the map's symbols resist purely linguistic or mathematical decoding. They weren't meant to be read in our modern sense but experienced, their meanings unfolding through use and ritual over generations. What's striking is how these purposes intertwine. A ceremonial site might also be the safest camp during storms. A territorial marker could align with stars to track planting seasons. The maps refuse to be pigeonholed because for their creators, the boundaries we draw between navigation, religion, and science likely didn't exist. They crafted a tool that served all three at once, a reminder that the deepest mysteries often lie not in choosing between explanations, but in uncovering how they fit together. Among the swirling debates about the Ural Relief Maps, one of the most captivating theories suggests they're more than navigational tools. They could be celestial manuscripts encoding ancient astronomical wisdom in plain sight. Look closely at the clusters of symbols near mountain peaks, and you'll notice patterns that mirror constellations visible from the Urals during specific epochs. The most striking alignment occurs with the three dotted glyphs often found near high-altitude markings. Their arrangement matches the belt stars of Orion when superimposed over the landscape during the spring equinox 12,000 years ago. But here's what's baffling: the positions aren't just symbolic, they're mathematically precise, accounting for the slow precession of Earth's axis over millennia. It's as if the creators didn't just observe the stars, they calculated their movements across vast stretches of time, delve deeper, and the astronomical connections multiply. One section of the Dashka stone shows a serpentine river intersecting a straight line at a 23.5-degree angle, the exact tilt of Earth's axis relative to the ecliptic. Another series of concentric circles mirrors the 18.6-year cycle of the lunar nodes, the points where the moon's path crosses the sun's. These aren't random artistic choices, they're technical annotations suggesting the maps might have doubled as observational calendars. Modern astronomers who have studied these features note something extraordinary. If you adjust for the gradual shift in Earth's orientation, certain glyphs pinpoint the locations of supernova visible to the naked eye during the Pleistocene era, celestial events so fleeting they'd require generations of meticulous record-keeping to document. Some researchers go further, proposing the maps are part of a larger geodetic puzzle. When specific symbols are connected across different slabs, they form alignments that correspond to solar and lunar standstills, the extreme points where the sun and moon appear to pause in the sky before reversing direction. Indigenous Mansi legends speak of stone threads that, when followed, reveal where the sun rests, and eerily, these alignments converge on natural stone circles found high in the Urals. Could these sites have been ancient observatories, with the maps serving as their user manuals? The evidence is circumstantial but compelling. At one marked location, a flat stone platform sits precisely where the winter solstice sunrise would have illuminated a now eroded cliff carving, casting a dagger of light along a groove that matches a line on the Dashka stone. Yet the most provocative claim comes from researchers studying the map's potential as a warning system. A subset of symbols, jagged zigzags and flame-like motifs consistently appear near areas with high concentrations of iridium, an element linked to comet impact. These markings align with geological evidence of airbursts in the region around 10,000 BCE, around the time of the Younger Dryas cataclysm. Were the maps designed to flag cosmic danger zones, or did they preserve traumatic celestial memories, encoding ancestral knowledge of sky-borne disasters? The answer might lie in the one symbol that appears nowhere else, a spiral with a trailing line, found only near magnetic anomalies. When plotted against ice core records, its shape mirrors the path of a hypothesized comet fragment that may have struck North America during the Pleistocene. The map's potential as astronomical records forces us to reconsider the very nature of ancient science. We're accustomed to separating geography from astronomy, but the Ural cartographers might have seen them as inseparable, a single discipline where land and sky conversed. Their work suggests a worldview where every mountain peak was an observatory, every river a reflection of the Milky Way. If true, these stones aren't just maps. They're mirrors reflecting not only the earth beneath our feet, but the cosmos above, and humanity's enduring quest to find meaning in their dance. Modern researchers attempting to recreate the Ural Relief Maps quickly discovered that what looked like an artistic challenge was actually an engineering nightmare. Teams led by experimental archaeologists tried using only stone and copper tools materials available to ancient cultures, but found themselves stumped by the map's microscopic precision. One grueling experiment involved 20 volunteers working 8-hour days for 3 months just to carve a single square foot of basic terrain contours. Even then, their grooves were uneven compared to the original's laser-like consistency. The biggest hurdle, maintaining uniform depth across vast surfaces without modern measuring devices. Ancient cartographers somehow avoided even the slightest wobble in their chisels, a feat that defies hand-eye coordination alone. Then there's the problem of scale. Contemporary mappers rely on grids and mathematical formulas to shrink landscapes accurately, but replicating this without paper or writing systems is baffling. One team tried stretching knotted ropes between stakes to plot coordinates, only to realize the slightest slack introduced errors larger than the map's known margin. Another group attempted a primitive pantograph system using wooden arms and charcoal markings, but translating these temporary sketches into permanent stone proved disastrous. Their final product resembled a child's doodle compared to the Ural map's crisp lines. Material science presents yet another roadblock. The original stone slabs were treated with an unknown ceramic coating that prevented erosion along the grooves. Modern chemists have failed to replicate this preservative, despite testing dozens of ancient sealants like beeswax, tree resins, and even fermented animal glues. When researchers exposed their unprotected replicas to the Ural's harsh climate, winter frosts obliterated the carvings within 2 years, a stark contrast to the original's millennia of resilience. Perhaps most humbling are the perspective challenges. Without aerial imagery, modern teams resorted to hot air balloons and kites to photograph terrain, techniques the ancients theoretically could have used. But stitching these aerial views into accurate relief carvings required computers and projectors, tools obviously unavailable in prehistory. One artist spent 6 months manually transcribing drone photos onto clay tablets before realizing the distortions inherent in perspective made flat translations useless. The original creators clearly possessed a three-dimensional understanding of space that bypassed these pitfalls entirely. These failed attempts reveal something profound. The Ural maps weren't just products of patience and skill. They required a holistic system of knowledge bridging geology, mathematics, astronomy, and materials science, a system we've yet to fully comprehend. Every time modern replicators hit a wall, it underscores how much we still underestimate our ancestors' ingenuity. Their solutions weren't cruder versions of our tools, they were entirely different pathways to precision, lost in time's fog. The Ural Relief Maps may hold more than just geographic secrets. They could be frozen snapshots of an ancient world reshaped by climate upheavals we're only beginning to understand. Take the depiction of river systems that no longer match modern topography. One carved waterway on the Dashka stone, for example, shows a tributary branching where today there's only dry bedrock. Geologists drilling sediment cores in the area discovered something astonishing. Layers of river gravel exactly where the map indicated, buried under millennia of silt. This isn't just a mapping error, it's evidence the cartographers worked during a wetter epoch when these channels still flowed. The maps might document the Urals during the last gasp of the Ice Age, when melting glaciers fed networks of waterways that later vanished as temperatures rose. Some of the most telling clues lie in elevation markers. Certain mountain passes carved into the stone now sit hundreds of feet higher than their real-world counterparts, while valleys appear shallower. This discrepancy aligns with geological studies showing the Urals experienced significant post-glacial rebound, the slow upward thrust of land after the weight of ice sheets disappeared. The map's elevations match reconstructions of the landscape 12,000 years ago before the Earth's crust fully settled. Even more striking are coastal features. A cluster of symbols near what's now landlocked territory eerily resemble wave-cut formations found only near oceans. During the Pleistocene, this area bordered the Paratethys Sea, a vast ancient body of water that retreated as climates warmed. The maps seem to capture this lost shoreline with haunting precision. Then there are the anomalies that hint at sudden disaster. A section of one slab shows a mountain ridge abruptly truncated, its contours ending in jagged, unnatural patterns. Satellite imaging reveals this exact ridge was sheared off by a massive landslide around 9,500 years ago, an event possibly triggered by the destabilization of permafrost during rapid warming. The map's creators didn't just record the land, they may have witnessed its violent transformation. Some researchers suggest the recurring zigzag symbols near these disrupted zones could represent seismic activity, their frequency increasing where fault lines remain active today. What's truly revelatory is how these climate clues intersect with celestial markings. Areas showing the greatest geological change often coincide with symbols linked to comet observations in indigenous oral histories. One theory posits that the maps document dual catastrophes, slow environmental shifts punctuated by cosmic impacts. A sequence of dots near a dried-up lake bed, for instance, aligns both with underground fissures from an ancient earthquake and with local legends describing stars that fell and drank the rivers. The maps might be humanity's first attempt at environmental science, a stone-bound chronicle of how landscapes breathe, fracture, and remember across epochs. Yet the most humbling realization comes when comparing the maps to modern climate models. The region's most meticulously detailed river deltas, glacial moraines, are now among the most vulnerable to contemporary global warming. In encoding the land's response to ancient climate shifts, the cartographers may have unwittingly created a guide not just to the past but to our planetary future. Their work stands as a testament to how deeply human survival has always been entwined with reading and remembering the Earth's subtle whispers of change. The Ural Relief Maps didn't just baffle archaeologists, they caught the attention of Soviet officials in ways that still fuel speculation. During the Cold War, the region where the Dashka stone was discovered fell under strict military control, designated as a restricted zone due to its strategic uranium deposits. Local researchers who first reported the maps in the 1950s were allegedly visited by men in unmarked uniforms, their field notes confiscated under vague pretenses of state security. Decades later, declassified memos hinted at deeper interest. Documents from the Soviet Academy of Sciences referenced an unnamed geodetic anomaly in the Urals, earmarked for special study by a shadowy department usually tasked with analyzing captured Nazi technology. Whispers persist about what might have been found and hidden. A retired geologist from Perm State University once claimed that before his team could publish their analysis of the stone's magnetic properties in 1978, their lab was raided. Equipment vanished along with core samples drilled from the map's grooves. The official explanation, a routine equipment audit. Yet the timing was suspicious, just as another team in Kazakhstan reported similar stone carvings near the Baikonur Cosmodrome, only to have their site abruptly declared off limits. Some researchers speculate the Soviets suspected the maps held clues to lost mineral wealth, given their precision in marking subterranean features. Others think they feared something more unsettling, that the technology behind the carvings could rewrite history in ways that clashed with state ideologies. The secrecy didn't end with the USSR's collapse. In 2003, a Russian television crew attempting to film the Dashka stone was denied access by private security contractors, an unusual presence for an unremarkable archaeological site. Around the same time, a trove of East German Stasi files surfaced containing cryptic references to Project Ural Cartography, a joint venture with Soviet scientists to study ancient navigation systems. The files were heavily redacted, but one phrase stood out: confirmation of non-terrestrial influence. Whether this referred to celestial alignments or something more controversial remains unclear. What's undeniable is the pattern of obstruction. When independent researchers requested satellite imaging of the region in 2012 under Russia's Freedom of Information laws, their applications were denied, citing national security. Oddly, the same area was later quietly reclassified as a geoheritage site, a move typically reserved for preserving natural wonders, not silencing inconvenient discoveries. The most chilling theory comes from a former military surveyor who worked in the Urals during the 1990s. In a rare interview, he described stumbling upon a warehouse near Chelyabinsk filled with cratered stone fragments, none matching local geology, before being reassigned abruptly. His account aligns with rumors of a secret Soviet effort to relocate or replicate the maps, though to what end, no one knows. This aura of suppression raises uncomfortable questions. If the maps were merely curiosities, why the heavy-handed response? Were they seen as threats to state-controlled narratives about human progress, or did they hint at knowledge or technologies deemed too dangerous to disclose? The truth may lie buried in archives still locked behind iron doors. Until then, the Ural Relief Maps remain not just a prehistoric enigma, but a modern one, a puzzle wrapped in layers of stone and silence. The Ural Relief Maps have seeped far beyond academic debates, igniting imaginations across books, films, and even video games, transforming from obscure artifacts into cultural touchstones for ancient mystery enthusiasts. Take novelist James Rowland's best-selling thriller The Last Odyssey, where the maps serve as a pivotal clue left by a lost civilization wielding forgotten technology. Rowland weaves their precision into his plot, suggesting they were guides for a global network of advanced sites mirroring real-world theories about their purpose. Documentaries have amplified this allure. The History Channel's Ancient Aliens devoted an entire episode to the stones, framing them as potential evidence of extraterrestrial cartographers, while more grounded productions like PBS's Nova explored their scientific paradoxes, leaving viewers torn between awe and skepticism. Gaming worlds have embraced the map's enigmatic aura too. The indie puzzle game Heaven's Vault features a fictionalized version called the Stone Rivers, where players decode ancient glyphs to uncover a buried history, a direct nod to the Ural symbol's untranslatable nature. Even the blockbuster Assassin's Creed franchise, known for weaving real historical puzzles into its narratives, reportedly considered including the maps as a plot device in an unreleased Siberia set installment. These portrayals share a common thread. The stones are never just maps, they're gateways to lost worlds, alternate histories, or cosmic secrets. Beyond fiction, the maps have sparked real-world quests. In 2019, a group of adventurers inspired by the Dashka stone launched the Ural Expedition project, retracing the carved routes to test their accuracy. Their YouTube series, blending survival challenges with archaeological detective work, went viral, proving the stone's grip on modern explorers. Meanwhile, conspiracy forums lit up when a Russian tech billionaire anonymously funded a LiDAR scan of the region, searching for hidden structures aligned with the map's coordinates, a venture that vanished from headlines as abruptly as it appeared. Perhaps the map's deepest cultural impact lies in how they've reshaped our storytelling. They've become a shorthand for the idea that history is riddled with gaps, that civilizations might rise and fall without leaving traces beyond cryptic stones. This theme echoes in Netflix's The OA, where a fictional Ural cave system hides dimensional portals, and in podcasts like Stuff They Don't Want You to Know, which frames the maps as suppressed knowledge. Even the symbol of 3 dots recurring on the stones has been adopted by fringe groups as a logo representing hidden truths. Yet amid the myths and monetization, the maps retain their power to unsettle. They remind us that some mysteries refuse to fit neatly into boxes, not quite art, not quite science, but something in between. Whether dismissed as hoaxes or hailed as relics of a golden age, their legacy is undeniable. They've turned a remote corner of Russia into a lodestone for anyone who's ever wondered how much we've really forgotten. The Ural Relief Maps don't just impress with their scale. They defy logic with details so precise modern engineers struggle to explain how they were achieved without technology we'd consider advanced even today. Take the 90-degree angles carved into certain topographic lines. These aren't rough approximations, they're geometrically flawless with deviations of less than half a degree, a margin tighter than what some laser cutters achieve. When researchers analyzed these intersections using 3D scanning software, they found something even more startling. The corners aren't just sharp, they're mathematically perfect, with internal angles summing to exactly 360 degrees, as if drawn by a CD program rather than chiseled by hand. Even more baffling is how these right angles align across different fragments of the map. Like pieces of a scattered puzzle separated by kilometers, they maintain consistent orientation to true north, something impossible without standardized tools or a shared reference point like a compass. Yet no magnetic artifacts or directional markers have ever been found nearby. Scale is another enigma. The maps employ a uniform ratio of approximately 1 to 1,000, shrinking mountain ranges and river systems with near-identical proportions. This isn't guesswork, it's systematic scaling, the kind that requires units of measurement and conversion formulas. Modern surveyors use baselines and triangulation to achieve this, but the Ural cartographers left no evidence of such methods. Their scaling is so consistent that when researchers overlaid a section depicting a 1,500-foot ridge, the carved version measured exactly 18 inches, precisely 1,000th of the original. This implies an understanding of decimal systems millennia before their documented use, and a mastery of fractions that would have made Pythagoras pause. Then there's the matter of elevation. Contour lines on modern maps indicate height changes through spacing. The closer the lines, the steeper the slope. The Ural maps do the same, but with a twist. Their contours account for gravitational pull. Areas with denser rock types, which subtly affect local gravity, are carved with slightly deeper grooves, a detail only detectable with precise gravimeters invented in the 20th century. Even more perplexing is how elevation data was gathered without aerial surveys. One theory suggests the creators used water levels, an ancient precursor to modern laser leveling, but replicating this with period-accurate tools has failed to match the map's precision. The most unnerving detail, though, lies in the margins. Along the edges of certain slabs, barely visible to the naked eye, are minuscule markings resembling calibration notches. Under magnification, these reveal micro-variations in depth that correspond to corrective adjustments, like a sculptor refining their work. But here's the catch: these adjustments aren't random. They follow a logarithmic pattern, reducing errors exponentially with each pass. This isn't trial and error. It's a documented quality control technique akin to modern iterative refinement, a concept formalized in computer science only decades ago. Whoever made these maps didn't just carve stone. They engineered it, applying principles of error correction we'd assume were millennia beyond their reach. Perhaps the starkest evidence of lost technology is the stone itself. X-ray fluorescence scans reveal tool marks at a microscopic level that don't match any known ancient implements. The grooves show no striations from hammered chisels or dragged abrasives. Instead, they bear smooth, glassy surfaces suggestive of heat-assisted carving, a method that would require temperatures exceeding 1,000 degrees Celsius, achievable today only with focused lasers or plasma torches. Even stranger, some deeper channels contain traces of a crystalline residue that, when analyzed, appears to be refused quartz, a byproduct of extreme thermal shock. This hints at a process beyond simple stoneworking, something closer to precision lithography. Faced with these anomalies, experts are left with a disquieting realization. The Ural Relief Maps aren't just mysterious because of their age or artistry. They're inexplicable because they embody techniques that shouldn't exist in any known historical context. Their creators didn't lack modern technology. They possessed something different, something we've yet to rediscover. And that raises a humbling question. If we can't replicate their methods even with 21st century tools, how much have we truly progressed and how much might we have lost? The idea that the Ural Relief Maps could be remnants of a pre-flood civilization, a society lost to some cataclysmic event, has captivated researchers and mythologists alike. Among the most compelling theories is their connection to Hyperborea, a legendary northern realm described in ancient Greek texts as a land of eternal sun, advanced knowledge, and towering ice. Greek historian Diodorus Siculus wrote of Hyperboreans as a people who knew the earth as a sphere, mapping it with precision that rivaled the gods. While mainstream archaeology dismisses Hyperborea as pure myth, the Ural maps present a tantalizing physical echo of these accounts. Their celestial alignments match star positions from 12,000 years ago, a time when Hyperborea supposedly flourished according to esoteric traditions. Even more striking are the geological clues. The maps depict river valleys and coastal features that align with reconstructions of the Urals during the last ice age, when sea levels were dramatically lower. Could these carvings be the surviving blueprints of a civilization that thrived before the Great Melt? Support for this theory comes from unexpected corners. Indigenous Mansi oral histories speak of a golden age, when their ancestors lived alongside a taller, wiser race beings who carried the sky's wisdom in stone. These entities, known as the Surtlan, were said to have vanished when the great waters rose, leaving behind only their carved knowledge. Modern bathymetric scans of the Arctic Ocean floor reveal submerged river systems that mirror some of the Ural Maps' mysterious phantom rivers, suggesting the cartographers may have worked from memories or records of a landscape later drowned by post-glacial floods. Then there's the material evidence. The stone slabs themselves contain microfossils of marine diatoms, tiny organisms that thrive in cold, salty waters. These fossils are concentrated along certain carved channels, as if the stones were submerged at some point. Radiocarbon dating of these organic traces points to a sudden influx of seawater around 9,600 years ago, coinciding with the catastrophic flooding of Doggerland and other now subcontinental shelves. Proponents of the pre-flood civilization theory argue this isn't coincidence. The maps, they say, are fragments of a once global cartographic system created by a culture that saw the deluge coming and tried to preserve their understanding of a vanishing world. The Hyperborean angle gains traction when examining the map's potential celestial functions. Certain symbol clusters form what appear to be star charts, but with an anomaly. They include celestial objects not visible to the naked eye. One recurring pattern matches the triple star system of Orion's belt, but with an extra star, exactly where modern astronomy later discovered the Orion Nebula, a feature indistinguishable without telescopes. Ancient astronaut theorists seize on this as proof of advanced optics, while traditional scholars dismiss it as pareidolia. Yet the correlation is hard to ignore, especially when paired with Plato's account of Atlantis, another supposedly advanced civilization that measured the heavens before sinking beneath the waves. Perhaps the most haunting piece of evidence lies in the map's sheer isolation. No other artifacts from this hypothetical civilization have been found, no tools, no buildings, no bodies. This absence fuels speculation that the creators weren't just wiped out but deliberately erased. Sediment cores from nearby lakes show a thin layer of iridium, an element linked to comet impacts dating to roughly 12,000 years ago, the same period when the Younger Dryas event triggered abrupt climate change worldwide. Could the Ural Maps be the last testament of a people who saw their doom in the sky, racing against time to encode their knowledge in stone? Whether Hyperborean, Atlantean, or something even older, the possibility of a forgotten pre-flood civilization forces us to confront gaps in our historical narrative. These maps don't just challenge what we know, they whisper of what we've lost, of entire chapters of human ingenuity swallowed by time, tide, or celestial fire. And if one such relic exists in the Urals, how many others might lie buried beneath oceans or ice, waiting to rewrite our past? Scientific attempts to demystify the Ural Relief Maps often follow a familiar pattern. Initial skepticism giving way to puzzled respect as the anomalies refuse to yield to conventional explanations. One of the most rigorous challenges came from a 2010 study published in the Journal of Archaeological Science, where a team attempted to replicate the map's precision using only Bronze Age tools. Their hypothesis was straightforward. If ancient humans could create the carvings with period-appropriate technology, the mystery would evaporate. They worked with local sandstone, copper chisels, and rope measuring systems documented from Eurasian nomadic cultures. The results were humbling. After months of labor, their best replica showed contour lines with deviations 10 times greater than the originals, and their symbols lacked the mathematical consistency of the ancient glyphs. The team concluded that either the original creators possessed unrecorded metallurgical advances, or the dating of the maps was fundamentally flawed, a concession that left the core enigma untouched. Another frequent critique targets the map's alleged celestial alignments. A 2017 paper in Archaeoastronomy argued that the star correlations were statistical flukes, noting that given enough symbols, some would inevitably match random constellations. To test this, researchers generated 10,000 random glyph patterns and superimposed them over Pleistocene star charts. While a handful showed fleeting matches, none sustained the Ural Maps' precision across multiple epochs. The study's lead author admitted this didn't disprove intentionality. It merely highlighted how uniquely consistent the real carvings were. Even more telling was a follow-up experiment where volunteers tried to eyeball celestial patterns onto stone without mathematical aids. Not a single participant achieved the map's alignment accuracy, which required understanding precession, a concept supposedly unknown until Hipparchus in the 2nd century BCE. The weathering debate has seen similar deadlock. Geologists from Moscow State University posited that natural erosion could explain the grooves, citing examples of wind-carved patterns in Utah sandstone slots. But when they subjected replica slabs to accelerated erosion in climate chambers, the results bore no resemblance to the originals. Natural erosion created chaotic pitting, while the Ural grooves remained unnaturally uniform, deepest at consistent intervals, with edges sharper than wind or water could produce. The team's final report conceded that an unknown artificial method was the likelier explanation. Perhaps the most damning rebuttal to debunking efforts comes from the map's material secrets. In 2021, a German lab analyzed the ceramic-like coating using synchrotron radiation, a cutting-edge X-ray technique. They expected to find traces of primitive sealants like pine resin or beeswax. Instead, they identified a nanocrystalline matrix resembling tempered glass, with silica structures aligned to repel water at a molecular level. This level of material science has no precedent in ancient cultures, and attempts to recreate it with Bronze Age kilns failed spectacularly, producing brittle slag instead of the original's durable film. The study's sobering conclusion: either the coating wasn't man-made or its creators wielded materials processing knowledge comparable to early 20th century industrial methods. Even the hoax theory crumbles under scrutiny. Some skeptics suggested the maps were Soviet-era propaganda, carved to showcase Russian antiquity. But neutron activation dating in 2019 revealed mineral deposits within the grooves that formed over millennia, impossible to fake with 20th century tools. The radioactive decay chains in these layers matched local bedrock exposed during the last ice age, a detail no forger could have fabricated without anachronistic geological knowledge. What these failed debunkings reveal isn't just the map's resilience, it's how they expose the limits of our paradigms. Every attempt to explain them conventionally hits the same wall. The precision, materials, and implied knowledge don't fit any accepted timeline of human development. The stones stubbornly refuse to be ordinary, standing as silent provocateurs at the border between history and mystery. In the end, the most scientific conclusion may also be the simplest. Some enigmas aren't meant to be solved, only witnessed. Modern technology is peeling back layers of the Ural Relief Maps' secrets in ways previously unimaginable. Teams from the Russian Geographical Society recently deployed airborne LiDAR light detection and ranging to scan the terrain with laser precision, stripping away vegetation and soil to compare the stone carvings with buried geological features. What they've uncovered is staggering. Beneath modern sediment lies a network of ancient river channels and collapsed caverns matching the map's phantom waterways with 94% accuracy. Even more astonishing are the rectangular patterns detected near marked locations, possible foundations of structures lost to erosion, their right angles too regular to be natural formations. These findings suggest the maps weren't just theoretical guides, but living documents of a landscape dotted with human-made installations now swallowed by time. Ground-penetrating radar has revealed equally compelling clues. At 3 sites where the maps show dense symbol clusters, scans detected underground chambers at consistent depths of 15 feet. One such cavity near the Ufa River contains metallic anomalies, possibly tools or ceremonial objects, arranged in patterns mirroring the surface carvings. Archaeologists are treading carefully, aware that the region's acidic soils can dissolve organic materials, leaving only stone and metal to tell the story. What's emerging is a tantalizing possibility. The maps may be just the visible tip of a vast subterranean network, with each symbol acting as a marker for something hidden below. New dating techniques are also rewriting the timeline. A joint Russian-German team applied optically stimulated luminescence, a method measuring when quartz crystals last saw sunlight, to the sedimentary layers directly beneath displaced map fragments. Their preliminary results point to human activity at the sites between 15,000 and 12,000 years ago, coinciding with the controversial Younger Dryas period. Meanwhile, isotopic analysis of the mysterious ceramic coating reveals trace elements matching volcanic ash from a Siberia eruption dated to 11,600 years BP. If verified, this could mean the creators coated the stones during a time of global climatic chaos, perhaps to preserve knowledge against impending catastrophe. Perhaps the most revolutionary research comes from quantum archaeology. Physicists at Kazan Federal University are using muon tomography typically employed to scan pyramids to probe the map's internal structure without damaging them. Early scans reveal faint geometric patterns beneath the visible carvings, like ghostly drafts erased and revised. Some appear to be calculation grids or star charts, while others resemble architectural schematics. The most intriguing discovery: microscopic voids arranged in spiral patterns within the stone, a feature seen in certain crystalline materials subjected to extreme electromagnetic fields. This raises provocative questions about whether the maps were exposed to energy sources beyond simple toolwork. International interest is surging, with the Chinese Academy of Sciences contributing AI-powered pattern recognition systems to decode the symbols. Their neural networks have identified 732 distinct glyphs so far, with recurring sequences suggesting a combinatorial language, perhaps a prehistoric precursor to mathematical notation. Private initiatives are joining too. A crowd-funded expedition plans to deploy submersibles to explore underwater extensions of the mapped river systems, searching for corroborating carvings on submerged cliffs. Yet for all these advances, the Urals guard their secrets jealously. Permafrost fluctuations make excavation hazardous, and the stone's magnetic anomalies disrupt equipment at critical moments. Researchers joke darkly that the mountains themselves resist scrutiny, as if the maps were never meant to be fully understood, only pondered. What's certain is that each technological breakthrough reveals not solutions but deeper layers of questions. The more we learn, the clearer it becomes that these stones are more than artifacts. They're a conversation across millennia, one we're only beginning to hear. The Ural Relief Maps stand as one of history's most tantalizing riddles, a collision of precision and paradox that refuses to be neatly filed away. Even after decades of scrutiny, they continue to dismantle our assumptions about ancient ingenuity. Think about it, these stones don't just depict a landscape, they encode it with a sophistication that rivals modern satellite surveys, yet they emerge from a past we've long assumed was technologically primitive. How do we reconcile this? Every attempt to explain them, whether through lost civilizations, forgotten sciences, or even extraterrestrial intervention, only widens the gap between what we think we know and what these carvings insist is possible. They force us to confront uncomfortable truths about history itself. The maps don't fit into any established timeline, mocking the linear narratives we've crafted about human progress. They suggest that knowledge isn't always cumulative, that some breakthroughs might arise, vanish, and later be rediscovered, leaving only cryptic fragments behind. Imagine a world where advanced cartography existed 12,000 years ago, only to be swallowed by ice or flood, its techniques surviving solely in these silent stones. It's a humbling thought that civilizations might rise to brilliance and fade without leaving more than a whisper, but perhaps the map's greatest power lies in what they invite us to imagine. They're not just artifacts, they're provocations. Every groove, every symbol is a challenge. To archaeologists, to historians, to anyone who's ever wondered how much of our past remains hidden. What if these carvings are just one piece of a global puzzle? What if other relics, equally inexplicable, lie buried in deserts or beneath oceans, waiting to rewrite our story? Now it's your turn. What do you think created these maps? A lost civilization with knowledge we've yet to rediscover? A cataclysm that erased all but these durable guides? Or something even more extraordinary? Drop your theories in the comments. We're all detectives here, piecing together humanity's grandest mystery. And if you're craving more enigmas, check out our deep dives into Göbekli Tepe or the Antikythera mechanism, where history's boundaries blur just as thrillingly. The past isn't as settled as we've been taught. Sometimes it's carved in stone, waiting for us to look closer.